We finally got a new update and it is amazing. 17.20 has given us so many new devices, new items, and even new settings that we didn't know we needed till now. Absolutely insane. I can't wait to dive into it. I'm excited for all the new things that are coming to creative, and I can't wait to see what people create with these. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. The first thing we got is the brand new down but not out device. It looks like this little red little gear thing and little hurt person like crawling on the floor in the middle of it. So of course we have the basic settings. You can enable during phase all, pre-game only, gameplay only, or none. You can do down but not out enabled. This is an island setting, but you can just enable it here instead if you would like. Of course you could not override, so do whatever your island setting has. You can have yes or no. Next we have the Tenacity Depletion rate. This is how fast they lose health when they are downed. Setting it to default will do the normal BR tick rate when you're downed, or you can make it so they don't take any damage when they're downed, 1%, 2%, and so on and so forth through all these different increments. You can increment it all the way up to 50% health. Another neat setting is you can set the health they have after they are revived. Default will be the 30% like normal BR, but you can also make it 1%, 5%, 10%, 25, 50, 75, and 100%. You can also set the time to revive. Default it is 10 seconds, but you can make it 15, or the max is 20, but you can also make it instant, and of course the smaller increment as well. You can decide whether or not you want a player to even be able to revive. So yes or no, it's a pretty simple setting. In BR, when you knock a player, you're able to shake them down, but you can decide here if you would like to have that on or off. The funny thing is the show player location on shakedown. My thought is if you have this on no, you have this on, does that mean you'll just shake the player for no reason at all? Fun little setting, it's up to you if you want to have this on or off. When you get down, the game makes this little like alarm sound effect. You can go ahead and decide if you want to have that on or off with the alert team when down setting. Last man standing mode is set to no on default, but you can set it to yes, and basically what this does is it means you have to finish all the players you have downed before the game will decide to end. To select a team, this is just what team you want it to affect or not affect. This is all dependent on what you set to the effects team. You can have all but selected or only select. And same thing with selected class and effects class, all but selected or only select. In BR, when you knock a player, you're able to decide if you want to carry them or not. You can go ahead and decide if that's even an option to do in creative mode, so yes or no. And of course, some more basic settings. You can have it enabled, disabled on different channels, of course. Down player when receiving, you can just force down a player on a channel. You can revive a player on a channel. When a player is down, you can transmit on a channel. When a player is carried, they can go ahead and transmit on a channel. When a player is thrown after being carried, you can transmit on a channel. When a player is put on the ground after being carried, you can go ahead and transmit on a channel. When a player is revived, you can go ahead and transmit on a channel. You can also go ahead and make it so if someone shakes down that player, the person who's shaking them down will transmit on a channel. And vice versa, you can make it so the victim, the guy who is downed, will transmit on a channel when they are shaken down. So a lot of cool things you can do with the down but not out device. I'm curious to see what people come up with. I know I'm gonna probably mess around with it a bunch, but yeah, pretty cool device. Of course, the biggest thing that a lot of people have been wanting from Season 7 is the UFOs, and of course we finally have them, so here they are. It looks like we have a lot of the same old vehicle settings: enable, respawn time, respawn vehicle when receiving, destroy vehicle, owning team, visible in game, and so on and so forth. Something to note is you can set the reboot. So in BR, the UFO can be rebooted twice, and you can go ahead and change that to whatever amount you want. No reboots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or unlimited. You can go ahead and enable the cannon, so that's that little cannonball you shoot when you're in the vehicle. You can go and decide if you want the tractor beam to be enabled. That's a yes or no thing. And of course, all these channel settings are exactly the same as like other vehicles, so nothing special here. I'm definitely excited to see what people do with this, because you know, the UFO is pretty cool, but it is pretty expensive. It is a 12,000 memory device, but you know, might be worth it if you're trying to do an alien map. I don't know what you guys are doing. The next thing is a little bit more of a simplistic thing. They've added 3 new consumables to the game, which are 3 fish that we were missing: the Vendetta, the Riff Fish, and the 0-point fish. Of course, they all have their own abilities. If you don't know what they are, the Vendetta will pretty much mark any nearby players. Of course, I'm in a single player map, so no one gets marked, but it would have a little red triangle above their head, and I would be able to identify them from a pretty far distance. The Riff Fish is pretty much just a riff to go in a fish form. When you eat it, you're gonna go and pop up into the sky. But the really unique one is the 0-point fish. This is an effect that we haven't even had in creative yet, so it might be useful for you to test out. But when you go and eat it, if you don't know what the ability does, you can basically double dash forward. Just be careful to do it in edit mode because you will fly. But it is a cool little effect that happens. Alright, what's going on, guys? It's Dom after I recorded the whole video and I realized the Recon Scanners are now in the game. It's a pretty cool device. It'll mark any chests or ammo boxes or players that are in this little orb that forms. But I like shooting it. It's fun. Plus it has infinite ammo, so dope. The next thing is Mutators. Now, it was actually leaked that there will be a prop version of the Mutator coming soon, but until then, we've got a couple really cool settings added onto this device. The first thing is setting the level of gravity you have when you're inside of the Mutator zone. Of course, you cannot override. You can do very low, low, normal, high, or very high. This is amazing because you don't have to waste teams or classes on setting gravity. But even cooler, you can now set the movement multiplier on a mutator zone, but it has a very unique setting. Apart from just being able to set it to a different speed when you're inside of it, you can even lock the player in place with setting the movement multiplier to 0. And this can be extremely useful for things like cutscenes and things you just want to be able to have the player locked in place for. It's really useful and a setting we definitely needed. But that's all for the mutator. Let's go and move on to the HUD controller. There's one new little setting that was added onto this that is very useful. So more recently, we've been given the ability to have mechanical parts and animal bones in our resources tab. However, if you had all the HUD turned off on a HUD controller, the mechanical parts would still show on the right side of your screen. So they've gone ahead and patched that up by going ahead and allowing us to turn off the show crafting resources on the side of the screen. Of course, you can have yes, no, or don't override. Pretty simple setting, but we definitely needed it because they missed that. Next, we have the race manager device. There are 3 new settings on this. The first is displaying the race progress on the HUD. This is how many laps the player has completed or how many laps there are in total, and the checkpoints if there are no laps. Additionally, you can choose to display race time on the HUD. This displays the total time since the race began and the player's most recent lap. It's just up to you if you want to have it on or off. Next, we have display best lap time on the HUD. It just displays the best lap time if you would like it to show that or not. Neat little settings for if you're creating races, but I'm not really much of a race guy, but I'm excited to see what people use that for. Additionally, you've probably seen so many open world maps that save players gold for economical purposes. They have now given us the ability to only save gold as a setting on the save point device. This is extremely useful because maybe you don't want to save the other random crafting resources or wood, brick, and metal. You can just save the gold, and it is now up to you if you'd like to do that. It will allow for a lot more variety between maps, and I think it's a great addition. And then of course, vehicles got a little bit of a boost. You can now make it so if a player is on the same team as another player, they can or can't break that teammate's vehicle. You can now decide whether or not you want vehicles to damage each other when they run into each other, or you can decide whether or not a player should be able to damage a vehicle that they own if they're on that team. This is dope. Vehicles definitely have a lot of problems breaking maps, so it's good to have them have a little bit more protection. And the last little setting is on the tracker. Now, a huge problem with trackers when you're joining in progress on a game is the tracker will automatically be assigned to a player, whether or not it is supposed to be in the middle of the game. So because of that, they've added a new little setting called assign when joining in progress. You can go ahead and toggle this yes or no. If it's no, the tracker won't be assigned on joining in progress, and if it's set to yes, it will. It's kind of up to you if you want it. I think it's a dope setting. It fixes a bug, and it's great. But last, and certainly not least, the thing that will definitely help all creators, no matter what you're working on, where you're working on it, islands are constantly increasing, so I think Epic realized it takes a lot longer to fly over a different spot. You can now increase your flight speed to 5 times. Look at that. 5 times flight speed. Look how fast I'm going. And if you sprint while you're flying, you're going 10 times the normal flight speed, which is a massive increase from what we used to have. So because of this, there's a little fun thing you can do, and it's if you have your flight speed turned all the way up, you look straight up, I'm going to press W, space, and my sprint key all at the same time, and I'm going to go really high. Watch this. Look how high I'm going. I can see the whole map. Bro, I don't think you've been able to go that high before because of the flight speed. But, I mean, increasing the flight speed to 5, massive increase. Definitely recommend messing around with it. It's fun. I went flying. It took me forever to fall all the way back down. That's epic.